be used to replace your legal or medical advice, nor your own sound judgment. In truth, nothing can dim your magnificence. You are a divine spark, a universal light. You are here on purpose. You are part of a divine plan. And it's our joy to support you. We're here to celebrate you. Welcome to Angel Heart Radio. Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is brought to you by AngelLight777.com. A divinely ordered life with spiritual teacher Deb Goldberg on Angel Heart Radio starts now.
Welcome everyone to Angel Heart Radio. I'm Deb Goldberg, and it's a great pleasure to be here with you today. And it's always an honor to serve you in the highest way that I can by bringing you messages of divine love and blessings for your life. You are dearly loved, cherished, and blessed. We have an awesome show for you today. We have a special guest, Harrison Klein. Welcome, Harrison.
Hi, thank you, Deb. Powered by love. I love that introduction. So yes, that is what we're all about. Thank you.
I totally agree. Powered by love. Not a truer word is said, right?
True. You know, that's the bottom line, baby.
So we have a great show for you tonight. It's called How Things Really Work. And do you ever wonder how things work in the universe? We're going to dive into the mysteries today, and we're going to be discussing the progression of knowledge through the awakening process with Harrison. So let me tell you a little bit about Harrison. He's an award-winning personal growth transformationalist, wealth and business growth consultant, whose mission is to personally change 1 million lives across the globe and help entrepreneurs, sales people, executives, coaches, marketers, and healers build multi-million-dollar companies and achieve the very best versions of themselves and reach personal and or business fulfillment. And he designs dynamic information products, writes articles and books. He's a public speaker. He produces events and travels the world. And Harris sits on many boards, several multi-million-dollar organizations, including the Evolutionary Business Council, the First World Spiritual Parliament, the New York Association for Research and Enlightenment, and is the American delegate to India for World United Speakers. Oh my goodness. What a bio. That's amazing.
Who, me? Hello, me?
Yeah, you. That's great. So why don't you tell all of us how you came to be all of that?
It's a moment of grace, you know. Nothing I particularly did myself. It just sort of was foisted on me through a lot of difficulty in my early years, and then just you know, the desire to be a much bigger presence through the dark years that I went through, and at a moment in time back around 1972, when I was in my 22nd year or something like that, 24th year, whatever. You know, I had an enlightening experience. I had what the Japanese call a satori, which is a sudden enlightenment. And, you know, all of a sudden I was in a room with probably 2 o'clock in the morning, and without much warning, or without any warning really, I was yanked out of my body. My consciousness was yanked out of my body. I found myself in a tube of white lightning, traveling through the universe at the speed of light, or at some phenomenal velocity that is incomprehensible to, or was incomprehensible, or is incomprehensible to the human form. And, you know, patterns coming at me, colors coming at me, planets birthing and dying, expanding and contracting, the universes, galaxies were spinning, and I could see galaxies spinning. I could see, you know, I could hear in the very distant background, choirs of angels, some very unearthly type music that I've never heard before or since. And just sort of a celebration of this awakening. And then I have no idea how long I was in the experience. Could have been 2 minutes, could have been 2 hours, could have been 2 days. But when I came back into my body, and I was deposited there with a thump, all the years of my former darkness, my autism, and I was autistic for 28 years of my life, and had been awakened. My senses were enhanced. I was clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. My vision was sharpened dramatically. I could actually see vibration for the first time in my life. I could see the different pulsations of reds and greens and blues and yellows, and watching those pulsate differently and feeling them, actually viscerally feeling them in my body as I looked at them. I was able to hear at a dramatic increase in my sensory perception of sound. So what I couldn't hear across the table, a day before because of my autism, I could hear 30 yards away clearly now. And, my vision was in the autistic state. Most people can't tell you this because they can't articulate it when they're autistic, and only those who have come out of it have a real perspective on it. But basically during the autistic state, you're in a continuous experience of fear. When the fear is dramatic and it is dynamic, and you are, if you would be so kind to kind of understand or accept this, you're in parallel universes simultaneously getting stimulation from multiple sources that you wouldn't normally have in the 3D dimension. So you're getting stimulus from different parts. So what you're seeing really is like overlays of film on your eyes, and you can't articulate that as an autistic person. But when you come out, you understand it after you've been to a different kind of focus. Your hearing is very much like a bad cell phone. So it's like every third word you hear, and you're trying to piece in the spaces between the words. And that's one of the reasons why autistic people can't articulate hardly anything, because they can't hardly understand anything. Every third word is all they're getting. So they're trying to piece together things. So that awakening then put me into a place where my senses were enhanced. My body for the first time became sensitive rather than numb. My body in the autism, my body was numb, and I had what Eckhart Tolle calls a pain body. That is that whenever anybody came within 6 to 8 feet of me, I would experience stabbing pains in my ribs. And then after the white light experience, I call it a white light experience. After that, I became extremely sensitive to not only what I was seeing and hearing and feeling, but my body became sensitive to what was going on internally continuously. I could tell, tap into my, different functions, my metabolism, my heartbeat, my, blood flow, all those other kinds of things. So those kind of things opened up for me. And, I've never been the same since. My life turned on a dime. So that's my journey. From that point on, then I guess I realized that my purpose, that all those years that I was in there, 23 years of being in this dark autistic place, was sort of Green Beret training for what I do now. Which is to help other people take the journey and experience, the results of that journey if they can, if they're able to and available to. So I use that in both in business and in personal growth, and I use that in everything that I do. It's a reference point for all of my life from that moment on.
That is fantastic. It's a fascinating journey.
It is and was, yeah. So the journey continues on.
I'm like sitting in awe because Both my grandchildren, two of them, have been diagnosed with autism.
Oh,
And so
okay.
listening to you even talk about what it felt like helps me have more of a grasp on maybe what they're going through.
It is definitely a straddle of stimuli that you don't have in the same 3D as what most people would call normal. So it's a straddle according to different dimensions and universes.
My goodness, what an amazing help that would be for people to really understand that from your point of view of what you've experienced.
It has been a good leverage for some people that I've taught on how to work with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And for people that have children that are, because there's more and more of those diagnoses.
I get asked about it all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I would imagine. So, wow. Okay. So now we're going to segue into how things really work after that amazing experience, that amazing awakening to what is going on in this universe.
yeah, so this universe is basically consciousness, so their consciousness is another word for love, is another word for awareness, is another word for energy, is another word for, just movement and things. So consciousness is a silent intelligence that governs everything. And there's it's always been here, it always will be, and it always has been. So there's never been a time, there's no such thing as time to consciousness, because it is the field of all things. And so the field doesn't need time, it just is. So in the isness of things, it has kind of defined itself as infinity. And the infinity of things is something that has no ambition. It's not going anywhere. It's not trying to achieve anything. It's not trying to do a certain anything. So what is something that has none of that inherent or indigenous to it be? Well, it plays. That's what it does. It plays. It's just a playful universe. And though some people suffer through a lot of different things, really it is their decision to play through the suffering, to play as suffering. So the way the universe works is really governed by the way play exists. And in my process of kind of, I won't say analyzing it out, but of perceiving it out, there are about 11 or 12 different things that happen that are in constant motion that make a difference to how things really work. And as we understand that experience, as we understand from that perspective, we then have the ability to use that perspective to experience or have or to play with anything we want, or to experience, to generate or attract anything we want. Most people believe, and especially people who are the kinds of listeners that we're talking to here, by this time all have heard of the law of attraction and the law and how that works and how primary that is to everything. But there are many laws that underlie the law of attraction, and then there are many laws that are generative from the law of attraction that determine how things work in terms of who we are and what we want and how do we get those things. So, life is just a series of perceptions and playfulness, and whatever that intelligence and energy is for you, or whatever you decide that intelligence and energy is for you, it's a small shift from being raised a particular way to coming into this awakening, but it changes everything. Just one small shift. It's simply a decision and a moment of grace, but it changes everything. And so once you start to move down that path, the process becomes illuminated for you, and that is not a metaphor. That is an actual fact. Light actually opens up what has been hidden before. We are all dimensional by nature. The majority of people that live on Earth are third dimensional people, and the species of human is now moving into the fourth and fifth dimension. But the first three dimensions have to do with being a point, and like mathematics. If you could equate it to mathematics, the first point. First dimension is a point, right? Dimension one is a point. Me. I'm here. This is my needs, my wants, my feelings, my experiences. It's all about me, the first dimension. So that's what many people never grow out of that dimension. It's like a baby is born, but they go their whole lives about my needs, my wants, my experiences. Second dimension, what is a second dimension in math? It's a bunch of points right next to each other. It's called a line. So in a line, one point can see what's on the one side of him and what's on the other side. My friends, my enemies, my family, my non-family, my desires, my repulsions, et cetera, et cetera. So the second dimension is in this line form. So we get to see, we get to decide the duality. What is who are we and who are we are not? And what is the experience of that? The third dimension starts to come into what we call solidity. So it's, in mathematics, that's height, width, and depth, right? So height would be the ability to see, to stand up, to see further down the road, to see into the future a little bit, and to see into the past. Depth is, how can we access our experience through the five faculties of mind, memory, perception, imagination, intuition, and imagination. So memory and perception. So I don't remember I don't know if I did any of those twice, but whatever. So the depth is that, and then the width is, what is our horizontal experience? Who is on our horizontal plane? How do we do that? All of that is governed by law. Every single thing, every part of that. If you go into the fourth dimension, that's dimension of time. And that's when you begin to deal with the dimension of time. Now you have transcended the third dimension, that is the physical dimension. And now you begin to see infinity. You begin to experience infinity as beyond time and space, when space collapses into the moment and time collapses into the moment, and there is nothing but the moment. So you don't go into the future, you don't go into the past, you are experiencing all of infinity right now. And you get the God experience of omniscience, omnipresence, omnibeing. So that becomes the fourth dimension when you begin to be enlightened. The fifth dimension is light. What does light do? Light splits darkness, right? So wherever it shines, so it gets to see whatever has been hidden anywhere. Any place it focuses its spotlight, it gets to see what's not articulated in any way. So all the darkness and all the things. So that's what light does. The seventh dimension, the dimension after light, is the dimension of creativity, where everything that we learned in the light then becomes applied in a creative fashion. You become super creative about everything. The way you wash a dish, the way you create a sentence, the way you cut the grass, the way you deal with the people in your lives, all those things, you become super creative, and you begin to do things you've never been taught, you've never seen, you've never imitated, you've never had to emulate. So you become super creative in this amazing way. And then the seventh dimension, when you step out of that dimension and you let go of creativity, now you become influential, and you become influential on a massive scale. Like an author who writes a book who influences the lives of 50,000 people he's never met, never seen, never had anything to do with, and never will. So you become influential. Your energy goes out to experience and affect other people in a massive way. So the ripple effect becomes real in a gigantic way. And then the eighth dimension is where you step into your crown chakra and you begin to communicate with the source energy, which is, source consciousness, which is the Godhead, if you will. So There are dimensions above that, but not relevant to this discussion here today. So, but once we understand the dimensionality, do you want me to just keep going?
Well, no, I was just thinking that all of this is so fascinating for people. I don't know if this is maybe the first time they're hearing it in the way that you describe it. And so one of the things that I was thinking as you were describing that I have walked through all of those dimensions at different times.
Sure, we all do.
Yeah, so that you're not.
We get glimpses of different dimensions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I thought that was important to maybe just clarify a little bit.
One of the things I love about understanding this model and understanding that we travel in between dimensions and we travel in between, universes and things like that, is that we can't, no matter what dimension we think we're in, whether we're in the fourth, whether we think we're in the fourth or the fifth or the sixth or the seventh or even the third or the whatever the second, we're always at least one dimension above that, because we can't recognize what the dimension we're in is until we can see the one under us. Yeah. So we're always one dimension higher than wherever we think we are. So if we think we are enlightened, we are in the creative dimension. If we think we are in the creative dimension, we're in the influence dimension, and so on and so forth. But we can't determine what dimension we're in, because we're the perennial tree in a forest.
So true. It's really hard to see yourself as you ascend. It's very difficult to see it.
Well, you simply the universe is always trying to escape definition because it's infinite, right? So there's no definition to infinity. So it always creates mystery in every dimension and everything. The fun of it is to be in the mystery. That is the play, is to find out, unravel the mystery to the best of your ability.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, well, God has told me this is my stage.
You're fulfilling it then. But guess what? You'll find when there'll come a time when it will be completely filled and understood by you, and then you'll move to the next one, whatever the next.
Yeah.
And then you'll gain an enormous amount of insight as to what this stage is, so that you can teach other people this stage in a different way. Yeah. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful system. Yeah. Really very cool. So how things work, do we want to go into that? Besides the fact that we now understand the dimensionalities of things, let's talk about how things really work. Well, most people, live in the understanding that everything is energy. Most of the people we'll be talking to on this kind of program understand that everything is energy, right? Everything exists in it, and energy, basically, the units of energy are called frequency. And frequency is really another word for vibration, and vibration is another word for how we feel. So in this incarnation in the flesh of who we are, basically, it's all about what we are generating, the frequency of what we are generating, which is the feeling that we are deciding to emulate or to radiate, not emulate, but radiate outward. So it's an energy vibe. And we can only attract, the very first law of how things work is the law of resonance, and it's what actually powers the law of attraction. So the law of resonance states that we can only attract that which which resonates with the same frequency that we have. So we can only experience that. So people who are in lower dimensions, and if you're let's just say you're in a fifth dimension, the people in the lower dimension can never see, the second dimension will never see or understand what you're experiencing, because they're only going to be able to resonate and experience a similar vibration and attract a similar vibration. So if they're in the, my friends, my enemies, so it's kind of thing, my family, my not family dimension, then what they're going to get is only that. You're not going to see what's in the third dimension or the fourth dimension or the fifth. They're not going to be able to experience that until they break loose and let go of the duality of that situation. My friends, my not friends, my family, my not family, my goods, my not my goods, et cetera, et cetera. So, the law of resonance is the law that underlies the law of attraction. So that means that all frequency is attracted only to similar frequency. It cannot experience anything else. So if you're in the seventh dimension, you understand everything in the dimensions lower than you, and you can really get glimpses of a higher dimension, but you can't reside in the higher dimension until you let go of this dimension. And some of the dimensions, as you get into 6, 7, 8, and so on, they become so blissful that you don't want to let go of. Lower, you don't want to let go because it's unfamiliar. And the higher, you don't want to let go because it's so blissful. But it's a fun thing. So it's not, but the law, how things work are not about the law of attraction the way that most people think and believe. It's about what you're attracting. It's not about how you're attracting. We attract all the time. That is indigenous to the energy field of who we are, to the unit of energy that we call ourselves. And we're attracting all the time. If we're not satisfied, all we have to do basically is vibrate differently. And that's just a decision. All of our vibrations are about thoughts, emotions, speech, and actions. So those are the bottom line. Those are the laws of how we experience things. And that's how the universe works, through thought, emotions, speech, and actions for every being that exists and for every frequency that exists. So when we align all of these, we create an amplified frequency that inevitably draws similar vibration to whatever it is we are radiating. And that's how we get what we want. And in this world, the basic law is, I know you want to say something, so I'll stop here, but the basic law is we get what we are and not what we want. And that is the bottom line of everything. And when we grasp that, then we can move through anything, anytime we want, because we just decide differently about who we are when we want to move into a higher or lower dimension.
There's so much power in understanding that you have all of this innate power inside of you by what you're discussing, that you can just shift how you want to perceive things, how you want to look at things. And it is amazing that most people, and for me, I was asleep for so long, most of my life, and not realizing that I had that kind of power inside of me. And then it is and that you are drawing to you what your vibration is.
Right.
It's really fascinating that you've been given this amazing tool of creativity and consciousness to make the world that you want to make.
We are the world.
We are the world. We are creation.
Yeah, we are creation. So the amount of times to get what we want, the amount of time to get what we want depends upon really how powerfully we are aligned. In other words, and also how consistently we're aligned. It's really important to understand because there are two parts to getting what we want. One is the alignment process of your conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. So in the dimensions that are the earthly plane, we have 3 different types of consciousnesses that are independently working, but when they come into agreement with each other, the power explodes into gigantic enormity. So the first is your subconscious, and that is what controls everything that exists inside of your body and in your experience. So it programs your behavior, and it programs the functionality of moving through this incarnation. So the subconscious is another word for God, really, if you will, but it's, it is your subconscious. It's your Godhood. It's not the Godhood. It is your Godhood. So the subconscious. Then you have the conscious, which is what most people believe is thought, although thought and consciousness are not the same. Consciousness is awareness, which is your alertness, and thought is really what you have experienced, the conclusions you have experienced in your alertness as you've journeyed through your time here. So consciousness is the second part, but what you decide in your consciousness, what you decide in your thought that you want to experience has to be aligned with your subconscious in order for that to move into a physical experience, into something that you experience, whether it be love intangibly or, material goods. And then the third consciousness is the super consciousness, which is the overall God consciousness that you can communicate with, and that you only communicate with that when the other two are aligned. But the God consciousness that you communicate with, that, creates the umbrella for all the things that you have happening in this incarnation. So the super consciousness is the quantum field, if you will, from which everything emerges. And there is a 0 point field, which is nothing but silent blackness and intelligence that controls everything. And it is our attention, the alertness of who we are, the alertness of our attention and intention, that when projected into the quantum field, into this field of all possibilities, that shapes energy into the form that we want to experience something in, whether it be the President of the United States or the or the busboy down at the corner store, or the Einstein genius or whatever. So we have all those abilities simply by decision and by knowledge of how these things work. So this is why it's so important for me to bring this message forward. And it's what I've been given to bring forward, and the fact that when we understand how it works, when we know how it works, then the application of it becomes easy. If you know how something works, you don't have to worry about it not working when it goes awry. You can just make the fix.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all good in that way. And then how powerfully you align. In other words, how can you amplify, generate the intensity of what it is you love? I love humor. I love playfulness. I love being with people. I love, generating money. I love doing all this. So it becomes powerful for me because I understand how it works and I don't have to deal with anything. And then I teach other people how to do that. It's dramatically cool. So, and the stories we have are the success stories we have are amazing, but it's not about the success story. It's about how we integrate and internalize those things. And the integration and internalization of that is the journey of being alive. That is the journey of life. And then the playfulness of it is how much you can enjoy the journey of being alive in this incarnation. So, then there are different laws that function. I mean, I don't want to, I know you want to jump in places, but yeah, I'll keep going. I'll keep going.
I didn't know if you could give us an example of maybe how you made a shift, or somebody you worked with, that how you got them to make a shift in this understanding, like a tool or a tip or something like that.
Sure, there are a million different things. Well, first of all, you have to know where an energy is in your body. So you have to scan your body to find out. We have a thing called chakras. There are 7 major ones. There's actually 144 chakras, 14 main chakras, but there are 8 chakras of the body. But all of our emotions generate from the body at some point or near the body in the auric field. But where a particular function that we perform comes from a particular area of the body, a corresponding area of the body. So the bottom 3 chakras, which are root chakra, our familial chakra, I forgot what they call that, sacral chakra or something, and then our will, those are the bottom ones. Those root us to the earth. The central chakra, which is the heart chakra, that is the bridge between heaven and earth. So that is the place where heaven and earth come together in order to form our experiences. The upper chakras, which being the throat chakra, which is how you express yourself, how you articulate things. Your third eye chakra, which is, your imagination, which is the direct communication of the thoughts and images of your mind to the universe in order to shape energy. And then the crown chakra, which is the absorption of cosmic energy or life energy that animates us. So all these chakras are in line. So let's take a thing. So when we scan our body by just doing this, we can start to feel, just bringing our hands down through our body, we begin to feel where the heat is in our body if we take a topic. So just say money. And you scan down somewhere along the line, you'll notice that there is a little bit more heat in your hands than someplace else. So, for example, this one, mine is right here. So it's right in the sacral chakra, in the will portion. So some people have it in their root chakra, some people have it in their celestial chakra, whatever the case may be. But that's one thing. So let's take an example of how do we make a shift, right? So the shifts are simply new decisions, and then the process of not going back on that decision, commitment to that decision. So a decision is a commitment, right? So a real decision is a commitment. Otherwise, it's half-assed and it's not a real decision. But so we make decisions by 3 or 4 ways. One is that we change ourselves. We only change in 3 ways. We change by our self-image, by changing our self-image. In other words, we decide that we want to be or look or feel or experience something differently. So we change that way of being. In other words, we act differently according to the desires that we have. The second way we change is through the belief system. So this is a faith-driven universe, a belief-driven universe. So the word belief is actually, if you go down to the etymology of it, it means be alive or be alive. So whatever you be, you live. Belief. You live the being of that thing. So that's a belief. So if you change your belief, you change your experience. You shift your experience. Every time you change your belief. And what is a belief? A belief is just something you repeat to yourself over and over and over again until you accept it as a truth. And then when you accept it as a truth, your subconscious then acts to bring it into experience. And then the third way that we change is through shock or through threshold, whatever you want to call it. That's the story of all these people who have hit rock bottom and then they say, no more, I'm done. And they change and they absolutely are now committed to a new way of being, right? And that's the third way we change. So I'll give you an example of one person that I helped that I think really dramatically illustrates some of these things. There was a woman who, before she came to me, had 14 operations in her vaginal area because she had daily experiences of excruciating pain. Part of that was, in her hips, in her pelvic, and in her vaginal areas. And every day she would have some sort of an episode, anywhere between 20 minutes to 4 hours. So she couldn't work, she couldn't function, she couldn't go to school, she couldn't learn, she couldn't do anything. So she was up into her 30s, up until the point where she contacted me. So after she told me the story, and all these medical operations, I realized that none of that could be physical. It couldn't possibly be because the medicine and the surgeries would have helped all that. So it had to be a mental construct. It had to be. So as I uncovered her story, it turns out she was incested when she was a young girl. She hated her femininity because it attracted men that took advantage of her. And her root chakra, or the place of her vaginal area, was the symbol of being taken advantage of continuously. So she hated men and she hated the experience of being a woman. So she had no other choice. So she was in pain continuously and every day would have these dramatic, excruciating episodes. So what I did was I put her into a hypnotic state. I'm able to do that. I put her into a hypnotic state and I regressed her back to the point of where she was 8 years old, when her body wasn't molested, when she was pure and clean and loved just being alive, as all 8-year-olds do, 5 to 7 years. Unless they're totally abused, they love being alive, It's just, it's, oh my God, a butterfly. Oh my God, it's warm out today. Oh my God, there's a puddle. Oh my God, all kind of stuff. They just love that. So I put her into that place where she was that 8-year-old little girl. I regressed her back into that. And then what I did was I made her relax into the fulfillment of that 8-year-old, where there was nothing in her consciousness but experiencing her body, whether it was walking or sitting or talking or playing or, touching petting her animal or whatever the case may be. But I put her into that space and I made her stay in that. I helped her to stay in that space for about 20 minutes. Then there was a point that I just knew intuitively, jerked her by the shoulder and brought that being, that 8-year-old being, into the present moment of her body right now. Mm-hmm. So the shift was made in her groin because she felt the purity of not being, violated. She felt that again, and she was in that space. From to this day, that was probably a year and a half ago. To this day, she has completely restructured her life. She has not had one moment of pain since that episode, since my regression with her. She not only has not had one moment of pain, she has gone off a disability, gotten productive work, become reconnected with her family and all the people that have in the past hurt her and forgiven them, and she's become more powerful than them. She has now attracted a lover and is engaged to be married and has had many, many love-making experiences that have been, ecstatic as opposed to painful. So, we made a little shift by simply shifting her understanding of what she felt. So we shift the belief of what that is into a space, and we shift a self-image, into I am that young, innocent, wonderful child that is in awe of the world. And simply that shift creates a whole new life. And she's never gone back, never had one iota of pain since. That's just one healing. I mean, and I can tell you I have hundreds of stories like that over the course of the years.
Well, how beautiful. How absolutely beautiful. And the example helps people understand what you're talking about is shifting the constructs, that the beliefs that we have and how we're experiencing ourselves. So amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
You are quite welcome. And I have 100 other ones when the time comes at some other point. But, one of the things that I wanted to really emphasize to your viewers and listeners here on Angel Heart is the fact that, there are laws. There are 7, in fact, in my construct, the way that I've perceived things is that there are 11 different, principles of the way things work, and the first principle is the law of identity, and that is the I am, and that's the most important principle that there is. We have 2 experiences, the experience before the I am, which is pure consciousness, which is our source connection and our ability to simply be everything, which is what children experience till they're about 5 to 7. They're just a sponge in their existence, and they don't know the difference between them and other people in terms of what they're experiencing. People tell them we're programmed into experiencing the difference, but children are just absorption up until about the age of 7, or some 5, some 7, some 8, but around the age of 7. So the identity principle is the first step beneath pure consciousness, and that is what you identify yourself as, your I am. Whatever you attach to the words I am are the signal to the universe to create that in completion. So if you say I am happy, you will experience a lightness of being. If you say I am depressed, your body will experience a heaviness. You'll become sluggish. If you say I am a great salesperson, you'll have confidence in going into the sales experience. If you say I am a great teacher, you will feel comfortable in front of students, so on and so forth. So what you identify yourself as is the determinant, or is what governs the energy of what you do. So the identity principle is the first process of the first law, if you will, of being. The first law that is the law of being. And we cannot do being. We can't do happiness. We can't do wealth. We have to be happy, or we have to become wealth or be wealthy. So the law of being is the central thing when we become into the carnation of flesh, the I am. Whatever, and every single thing that we experience has some I am attached to it from the beginning. We can't experience anything that we haven't said, I am this or I am that. I am happy, I am mad, I am angry, I am pissed off, I am curious. We can't experience anything, any emotion, any generation of energy without the I am. So that's the first thing of how the world works. We have to be aware that we have to use our I ams consciously in a way that serves us rather than in a way that depletes us. And all the negative emotions are ways that deplete us. But the one thing, no, there's no such thing as a bad emotion, but the negative emotions are there to be a teaching to you about something. So whatever you I am, when you I am a negative, it's because you want to learn something, and you don't know this consciously. You may know it subconsciously, but it's because you want to learn something. I want to learn about poverty. I want to learn about depression. I want to learn about this so that I can teach other people when I'm out of it, etc. I wanted to learn about autism. Crazy that it was. So I came out, I could help other people, whatever. But I didn't know that at the time, obviously, because I wasn't in that dimension. So the first way the world works is through the quantum field. So the quantum field is this gigantic field of all possibilities. It's pure energy and intelligence. It's nothing else. There's just blackness and energy and intelligence. So that energy and that intelligence is where everything emerges from. So whatever exists comes out of that blackness and pure intelligence. So once we learn how the world works, then that's the first step in understanding how to make our way in the world successfully. So the first thing is to learn the quantum thing. What is a quantum thing? Quantum means beneath the experience of atoms, right? So the quantum field is subatomic, meaning beneath the field of atoms. So it's, even beneath the field of leptons and quarks and all those other parts, of atoms. So if you really boil down to what is that energy of blackness and what is that intelligence that's down there, basically, it is the behavior of spirit. So quantum is the behavior of spirit. It is spirit. So all angels know this. All angels come from and physical angels and non-physical angels and everything, and every being who has ever come into consciousness will come into contact with that. So that's the first way to knowing how to make your way in the world. The second thing that happens is the law of alignment. So the second thing that how the world works is the law of alignment, is that when you can have your subconscious, your conscious, your subconscious, and your superconscious agree that what you want is more money, or what you want is more love, or what you want is more happiness, or what you want is more of your girlfriend, or what you want is more of whatever. When they are in alignment, the frequency is amplified, and then you absorb that. It becomes your frequency intertwined with what you are radiating, and then that's what you experience. And the law of alignment is the second way that the world works, the real way the world works. The third law, or the third way that the world works, is the law of the mind. Now, here, this is kind of really fascinating because most people don't realize this, and once they become aware of this, they become deliberate creators, which is a really big shift. So the mind is constructed of thoughts and images. So when our experience of life on this planet at this time is the compilation of the thoughts and images we have put into our mind, conscious or unconscious. So those are the instructions. So when you say you want something, or you say you want to do something, or you want to repulse from something, or whatever the case may be, you immediately have an image and you have a thought regarding it. When I say, what does it feel like to have $100 million? Bam, your mind will throw up an image and your mind will throw up a feeling simultaneously. So what you experience in life, those thoughts and image about anything, are the instructions to the universe on how to create and shape your experience and your energy and all the things that happen to you. That's what goes out to make the law of attraction work. So the law of the mind is what makes the law of attraction. The law of resonance is really the law of mind. So that's the next step of how things work. Then comes the law of time, really. So in the fourth dimension, most people believe, and Einstein said time was a persistent illusion, right? So most people believe that time is something that is a forward momentum that we can measure by successive moments on a clock, on the hands of a clock. But that's not at all what time is. And as you transcend, you find out what time is. And time is really a series of sensations that happen inside of your body that take you from one event to another, and then often come into your life as thought. So thought and time are the same thing. And these sensations that move us from one space, from being here to having dinner or walking into the other room, are sensations that happen inside of your body. And then it takes you to go from here to there, that takes time, right? So it's a series of sensations that moves that space of time, and being able to get up and walk and feel your feet and smell the air or whatever it is that you're doing in that process. So, or to go from here to being a millionaire, or to go from here to finding the love of your life. All that is about these sensations inside of your body. We talk about those chakras, right? So where is this sensation in your body? And you can scan your body, feeling the heat in your hand as it changes by having a particular thought or vision. You find out where that is in your body, and then you can play with it. And then the next thing is, so that's the law of time. Then comes the law of karma, which is what most of third dimensional experience resides upon. That is the law of cause and effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What goes around comes around. As you sow, so you reap. That kind of stuff. It's all this, those are all words for the same experience. Karma. Karma is action, and every action has a consequence. Every action has another consequence, and every other action it has both a cause and it has an effect. And every cause has an effect, and every effect creates a new cause. So the next thing of how things really work is to understand the consequences of everything that you decide you want to do, and understand that thoughts are things. So thoughts have consequences as well as actions have consequences. So law of certainty is the next law, or as you doubt or as you believe, so it is done unto you. So when you have no doubts, you generate exactly what you want almost instantaneously. You may not experience it instantaneously, but you generate it instantaneously. And if you hold to that belief, it will come into your experience. Then we have the law of conditions, if you will, the law of conditions. And what we understand is that as we transcend, when we step out of the law of karma, and then we can transcend karma where it no longer affects us. But up until the fourth dimension and above, it has complete control of us. But in the fourth dimension and above, we have the law of conditions, which means no conditions exist. It means that everything is happening simultaneously. Now, the Buddha, when he sat under that tree, the tree of whatever it was, the gigantic one, he was hit with a realization, and the realization was that everything exists simultaneously, that there's no forward, back, right, left, et cetera, and that there's no such thing as a condition. In the laws of karma, you have an if-then experience. If I do this, then I'll get that. If I say this, then this will happen. I'll make somebody happy if I do this, if I do that, or whatever. But in the higher laws, when you transcend the law of time, when you come above the law of time, you have no conditions, meaning that if you say, I'm a book author, you immediately are a book author, and you can write as an author, not as a novice trying to learn something. Okay, so that's the law of conditions. There are no conditions. Everything is simultaneous. So in one universe, you are Albert Einstein. In the other universe, you are Arnold Schwarzenegger, or whatever. Donald Trump, oh God. the next way that things work is that you begin to communicate with your higher self. And we can call that angels. We can call that, superconscious. We can call that, intuition or God intuition or whatever. It's the accessing the ability of information that is not within your purview to normally access. So that's the next place. Above that, now how things work is we start to come into the ability to overcome obstacles. Once we can overcome obstacles by effort in the lower dimensions, in the lower being. But in the upper dimensions, we simply can't overcome them just like that. I saw this woman, as being whole and complete before I ever began to work with her and regressing her back to her 8-year-old. And I held that space for her. I held it intensely for that 25 minutes until she totally felt it inside of her body. And when I knew she felt it, then I could jerk her into this dimension. So the shock brought her back and brought the experience back with her until she changed that feeling. Okay, so she vibrated differently. Then the next dimension is the law of the one. So once you begin to come into the ability to transcend and know that you are a transcendent being, means you are weightless and you are awareness. And when you come into that understanding, you become one with all things because you realize that everything is coming from you. It's not out there. You're not experiencing anything. It's coming from you. Everybody you see, every animal, every blade of grass, every piece of space, every thought is all coming from you. And you begin to have total access to that. That is the oneness of all things. A lot of people give a lot of lip service to it, but until it's visceral with you, you can't understand it. I can explain to you what honey tastes like. If you've never tasted honey, you'll never know until it's on your lips. Mm-hmm. So you can have an idea, but you won't know. But the oneness happens. And then we come full circle. Once we've come into the understanding of oneness, we have total happiness, bliss, and abundance. So this is how things really work.
Woo! Woo! Yeah. Oh, I think when people listen to this, they're going to have to stop the recording and listen and take that bite of wisdom in and really let it sink in as you went along, because you gave so much information, so much wisdom of how the universe works. And what we're here to learn is how the universe works. So Harrison, that was amazing.
That was amazing. You were in that shower, water was coming down on you. We were standing outside. There was nothing we could do. Did you ever hear that routine by Paula Poundstone? 3 cats out her shower door, and this water was coming down on top of you. There was nothing we could do.
Oh, that's funny. That is so funny.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for what you do, that you bring so much love and light and wisdom forward to help people.
We are all of the same ilk. There's no one that isn't of the same ilk, and it's all coming from all of us at the same time. So there's no law. There are 5 laws that are really that determine our behavior. One of them is the law of inclusion, which means that law of oneness. And there is nobody outside of the law of inclusion, which means we are all the same being in different masks, talking to ourselves, just having fun in this process. So,
yeah. And the more that, like you said, when you get with accepting that, that belief, and really start to have fun with it.
Yeah. So the fun,
it shifts.
It's foundational. The fun is foundational because when you play, there's no more effort. And when there's no more effort, you allow. And then what happens is this cosmic energy just surges through you. The same energy that creates galaxies, that creates, planets, that creates all of creation. So at that point, you become, you just are. You are the isness of things. And though you have a body that you carry around, it's like, secondary to the alertness of life that you are experiencing.
Great way to say that. Great way to say it. So my goodness, we are out of time.
Well, let me offer you people something. Can I do
Yeah,
that?
sure. Please do.
So what I want to give your people who are listening to this, who are don't know me or don't know anything about me or whatever, I want to give you basically a checklist of the laws of um, transcendence. I want to show you guys a checklist of what those laws are. So if you just email me at proabundance@gmail.com, proabundance @gmail.com. Proabundance, like Paul, Robert, Oscar, and then the word abundance @gmail.com. I will send you a checklist of the laws of transcendence. And then, secondly, I want to give you access to a portion of a product that I have right now, which is access to my Emotional Laws of Success program. Now, one of the things we have to understand is that all success and everything that we experience comes through an emotion. Emotion is something that is the body's response to our thoughts. And all success is based upon, emotion, because you can't experience anything without a vibration, and your emotions are your vibration. So there are 6 laws of emotional success, and I would love to show you guys that. Simply, if you want this checklist and you want some portion of access to some of my video around, the emotional laws of success, if you write to me at proabundance@gmail.com, and in the subject line, you simply send me an email. In the subject line, you say request. I'll know what you want, and basically I'll forward that to you, and we can start, if you want, to send those things to you. And if you'd like a relationship, we could create a relationship and, find out how to move your energy into whatever dimension or success or paradigm you want to experience in the most, uh, you know, um, both creative and rapid way that you can possibly imagine. It's the use of all the faculties of your mind, and it's the use of all the understandings of how things work. So I definitely want to serve. I'm here to make a difference. I've dedicated my life to helping people create higher consciousness. And, that's what this planet has given me and for you. And basically, there are no accidents. So the reason you're listening to this today, or whatever time you're listening to it, is to make that insight. And if you'd like that connection, if it resonates with you, make that connection, and we'll help you get to wherever it is you want to go with no effort, or as little effort as possible anyway. So yeah, so that's my offer to your people, and I certainly appreciate you having me on the show today.
Oh,
Thank you, Deb.
oh, you're so welcome. What a gracious offer, and gracious for being here with me. This has been wonderful. I've had the opportunity to be with Harrison before on our day of transformation, and he brought forth such beautiful wisdom, and I'm so happy to share you again with everyone.
My great pleasure to be here, and I give kisses and hugs. All those people.
Now, is there a website that you want to tell people that they can go to check you out a little bit more, see what you do?
Well, one of my programs is called the I Am Effect, and you can go there if you'd like, which is the IAMEFFECT.com, IamEffect.com. And that gives you access to a program to check out some of the things that I've done. If you want my branding page, that's IAM Harrison Klein International, because I couldn't get anything shorter.
Mhm.
I am HarrisonKleinInternational.com, and that's my branding page, and gives you a range of the different programs that I have. At one point, up until about 2 years ago, I had 147 programs, but now we're down to about 12. So there's no use in carrying all that, because, if people want it, they can get it. But, it's good. And the whole thing is that we're all here for a purpose. We all find the law of purpose. We are total unanimated energy until we come into this body, and the reason we come into this body has a purpose. And as soon as you find out what that purpose is, you are able to reference that against everything you know. So my purpose was to do what I'm doing right now. My purpose was to find out how these things work. So I explored the dark portion of that in my autism until I was ready. And then grace gave me a moment of awakening, and that awakening then became the advantage to as many people as I can touch.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
So I hope you guys are out there that I can touch.
Yeah.
During this COVID environment, I don't touch anything physically.
Well, hopefully soon enough.
My advice to you guys is don't touch anything I wouldn't.
Okay, we're going to keep that in mind, Harrison.
It's my pleasure to get connected, and it's my pleasure to talk with you again, Deb. What a wonderful interviewer you are, even though this one was just kind of a stream of consciousness. But yeah, thank you for having me again. And for all you guys out there, I will beat the hell out of you if you don't do this.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Well, we are at the conclusion of our show. I just wanted to also mention that I'll be starting a 5-series masterclass starting Saturday, July 11th. And you can go onto Enlightened World online to register. And it's called... And you better. And it's called The Journey to Spirit. So please check it out. I'd love to see you there. And when in doubt, never underestimate the power of prayer. You are being listened to and heard throughout the universe, and it always responds with infinite and eternal love. Remember to go inside and listen through your heart for the whispers of heaven. I love you, and God bless you.
You've been listening to another fabulous program on Angel Heart Radio. Our goal is to remind you of how much you matter in the world and to let you know that we appreciate who you are in the world. You can check out who's on, when we're on, and who our guests are at angelheartradio.com. Everything is there. It's all just one click away. Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools to help you in your life and your life experience. They are not intended, nor should they, be used to replace your medical or legal advice. Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is brought to you by AngelLight777.com. The views and opinions expressed by Angel Heart Radio hosts, guests, co-hosts and associates should not be construed as advice from Angel Heart Radio.